So I asked the group of young minds, how does the pressure to appear strong affect people's willingness to express emotional pain?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Opeyemi, for this question. This is actually very, very important, right? So, and we are in this era whereby people are actually doing more damage to themselves, more than they can imagine, and this is born out of say how they were brought up, the orientation they got, what they preach to them, and people they actually look up to, right? So the pressure is there. I'm not gonna lie, the pressure is there because and how it actually affects people, right? Is the fact that it will suppress, this urge of having to like discuss stuff with people, having to like tell people how you feel, what you're going through, right? So I actually want to like picture it from like two angles, right? So maybe why they usually preach this to us, most especially male child, is the fact that they believe at some day that the male child will be the head of a family, right? And as such, like as a leader, you need to be able to like hold pressure even when people are like showing their emotional can I say, I want to use the word weakness in quotes, right? So when people are showing that as the head of the family, you need to like have that capacity to keep things together, which is very fine, is very okay, right? But at the same time, as individuals, like as young guys, right, we need to actually have people we actually talk to about stuffs, right? In any manner that we feel, we need to actually have that mind, that boldness to actually speak out, because honestly, having to keep things to yourself and having to go through pains alone, that is not the true definition of strength, right? The true definition of strength to me is when you actually know when to speak out, when you actually know when to have a discussion with people, with someone, right? So the pressure is there, I'm not gonna lie, but we need to just start preaching this to our young guys that look, when you're going through certain stuffs, when you're going through things that you feel they are personal to you, you need to actually have someone you can speak to, that you can talk to. You don't need to carry the whole burden on yourself, and having to like show how you are emotionally is not a weakness, because having to keep emotional stress to yourself is not a strength as well. So we need to start preaching that. So that's my own
Thank you, Mr. Abdurrakib. That was an amazing one because I personally I understand that as an adult there are many challenges that we face, and we mostly do not have people to talk about it, especially the male figure, because they portray the male as someday they'll be the head of the family and they are meant to be mentally and physically strong. But aside the fact that there is pressure, I also want to believe that sometimes family structure is very important, because sometimes when we grow up being self-dependent of our how will I put it, of our struggles, that we don't really have that safe space in the family to discuss what we go through, and people tend to like keep things to themselves, and they grow up with that kind of social dysfunction, and when they grow up they find it difficult to share their internal struggles. And I also think that one of the problem is trust, because I've had cases whereby some people in the past have trusted the wrong people with their struggle, and things fell apart. So what advice do you have for for adults in general concerning this? How can we come out of that cage of the pressure of wanting to look strong? on the outside. What do you think, Mr.?
All right, thank you, Opem. So, I mean, maybe we should, while we preach this to people, we should try and correct the notion of um, being strong. What is that? What is that metric for the definition of, or let me say, what's that metric for saying someone is strong, right? So, I feel like there is no one that is strong, right? There is no one that is strong. We only just have capacities more than ourselves in whichever endeavor we find ourselves, right? So we just have those capacities. Like there is no one that is strong, right? So if we want to go extreme and say someone is strong, then no one is meant to like die. Everyone is meant to live forever. That aside, so if we can correct that notion of the fact that no one is strong, then it means when you are going through stuff, it is normal for you to like look for someone to talk to. Forget the fact that you might have, like in the past, having to speak to people and it backfired, and or in your family when you do not have that safe space to talk about what you're going through, and other examples that you cited. Fine, it happens in that manner, but that is why I keep hammering on having someone you can actually speak to. And one thing I've come to realize is when you have someone you can actually speak to, that does not mean that same person will take you as who he can actually speak to. It's just someone, it's just reality. You can take it, you can leave it. Do you understand? So it's just reality. For instance, while I was young, I attended boarding school from my primary school, so down to secondary school, but not the whole of the 6 years in secondary school. So then afterwards, I went to the uni. So my life has been, it was when I was young, when I was not going through a lot, when I only have to just play, go to school, come back, eat. When I was still very young, I stayed with my parents. But when I had this kind of responsibilities on my shoulders, I was actually, in boarding school throughout, and I was actually I was able to like look after myself all through. Do you understand? So I'm not the type that do have friends. Do you understand? So, but I came to realize that the person I do speak to when I'm going through something does not really call me and say, "Hey boy, I'm going through this too." But anytime I call this person, right, and I want to like speak to this person about, we actually used to talk about stuff, and it's going to be of support. So the whole essence is we should correct the notion of being strong. There is no one that is strong. We only just have capacity more than ourselves. And in that sense, if we now agree on that, then we actually need to look for someone we can talk to. You can talk to your family, you can even talk to, maybe like, just look for, it is necessary to ease burden on yourself. So I believe that's my own submission. So there's no strong person out there. It's just my submission. Thank you.
Okay, that has been so wonderful and insightful, and that's just it basically. I think the basic foundation is trust. Having someone that you can trust enough with your confidential information, because generally, and I mostly think this occur mostly to male, they really don't have people to talk to about their struggles, because most male friends that I've seen is just to joke, gist, just laugh things off. Even if they are going to talk about struggles, it's going to be about general speaking struggles like the country, financial status of the country, not their own personal problem. And I think male should have that community, like friends, where they can speak to one another about their internal struggle. Mr. Yomide, what do you think on this? What do you have to say on this topic before we round it up?
Want to learn about what Mr. Iamide Speaking Head in Silhouette and others has to say? Subscribe for part 2.